Oh dear.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Oh. All right.
Aww.
This is
Thank
sad.
you. You're really nice.
And this
You're a
is
good
exactly
friend.
why you need to rate and review all of the excellent panels you attend, especially the science track panels, because based on our attendance and your ratings of these events, we may or may not get more space in the future. We could tear down that wall and take up even more of this room.
More.
But we need to know you want it. So, rate and review panels, that goes for everything, but especially science track. But only if you like it. If you don't like it, you don't have to rate it. That's fine. Next up, masking is mandatory. Y'all are doing great. If you at any point feel like not wearing your mask in here, you are welcome to leave. Somebody will take your seat. If you're going to drink, drop your mask, take a drink, put it back on. Try not breathing with no mask on. Same with eating. Our next big ballroom event after this one is the Crystal Ball. I think it's Crystal Ballroom. It's Star Trek Strange New Worlds, The Science of. Come visit us. It's great. After this, we do have to clear out the whole room. You cannot save your seat for later. But we do appreciate your enthusiasm in wanting to. And we've vamped long enough that our last panelist has shown up. All right. We are going to be talking about things with pictures, so ideally everyone can see a screen well enough to see what's on the screen. There won't be text. You don't have to read it. It's just pretty pictures. All right. That's the official stuff. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monster Morphology. My name is Ryan Kunsell. I am not a biologist, but I am a fan of biology. And I am here to interrogate a bunch of experts. Well, let's start with getting you to introduce yourself. Who are you and what is your specialty?
We're going down the line.
Yeah.
I'm Eris Wiedorn. I'm a professional animal behaviorist. I have mostly done training for about the last 5 years. I've been a professional animal trainer. I work mostly with birds, but also some mammals, so lots of parrots and raptors.
My name's Marissa Levy. I have a background in neuroscience. I spent most of my graduate work studying social behavior using a hamster animal model, and I like to play D&D in my free time, which has given me a lot of experience with beasts and monsters.
All right. Hi, I'm Danielle N. Lee, DNLee5 on social media. I'm a biologist and outreach scientist. I primarily study nuisance rodents. Most famously, I studied a bomb-sniffing rat. It's been successfully trained to detect landmines and tuberculosis. And so that's my expertise as a mammologist and an ethologist.
Hi, I'm Lucas Hernandez. I am a visitor engagement coordinator at the South Carolina Aquarium. I have my degree in integrated animal biology. Basically, my job is to teach people about animals and try and introduce them to the fact that the animals are awesome. It seems a lot easier when you're talking about cats than you're talking about horseshoe crabs, but yeah, it's a thing you have to do. Aside from that, I also help operate the Poke Science podcast. Poke Science podcast, we focus a lot on all the Pokemon that are out there and where they're from, what their lore is from, how they would operate in our world. So that's what we've been doing for about 5 years now. Check it out if you like.
Thank you.
I'll shill.
Yeah. Oh, yes, please shill your things. I'll try to save time at the end to shill your things.
Oh, thank you.
Yay.
I do love a good shill.
So we're going to go sort of monster by monster, and then we'll open up to questions if we have time at the end. We like to have all of the questions on mics, so we don't want to interrupt in and about. We'll get a mic runner. Who is my mic runner? Do we have a lovely volunteer to run mics today? Wonderful. Later. It's okay. Later. I'll summon you loudly. Just want to make sure there's somebody mobile and able to do it. All right. So, one of the things that is difficult about biology is it's kind of hard to always study all animals in their natural environment to figure out what they do, what they eat, how they live, how they hunt, who they mate with, how they flirt. Very often, all we have is a corpse or a fossil or a skeleton, something that floated up to the surface and washed up on a beach, a few glimpses of footage from an underwater camera, pictures and reports from people who live in mountains. And our biologists have to infer a lot from the shape, structures, and physical features of animals to sort of work out how they live from those. So that's what we mean by morphology, the size, shape, and features of a creature without really getting to watch it play. And so what we have is a series of well-known animals, and we're just going to get these brilliant experts to do their job, to look at these creatures and sort of decipher from those features what these animals probably do, what they eat, how they live, the environments they live in. And we'll start with a classic. This, I believe, is called a dragon. It's got some big, graspy claws, muscly fore and hind limbs, big flappy wings, no fur or feathers, big horns. Anybody want to pick out a feature on here?
It's a weird-looking
going?
insect.
It's a weird-looking.
It's a weird-looking insect.
Why do you say that?
Well, the only animals I know that tend to have those 6 appendages tend to be insects. Now, obviously, there are animals with more, there are animals with less, but it's important to, I just think it's such a weird protrusion. And as animals evolve, a lot of times people have this idea that like it goes from like this can swim to it can go on land, but there's transitions. And you have to be able to survive these transitions over time as you're moving forward. I'm very curious how this organism transitioned to from like clearly a terrestrial animal because of the muscular parts you pointed out.
See, I would object.
Really?
I would have thought.
All right.
So the first thing I see is this animal is in some sort of 3D medium. It's either swimming in the air or in the soil. You know, that same kind of thing to kind of break through that substrate. I would say if it evolved from the water, because that's where life started.
Yeah.
That's where it started. So in the water, so those wings could be for flying or for moving soil.
Ooh.
You
Oh,
know,
well,
so shoveling that soil behind it.
that would explain
Well,
the damage to it. Look at the damage on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was-
See all of that.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say too, those wings are very small for flight. So
Right.
like very small animals like insects, like little tiny ones, don't necessarily need as big wings. But the bigger the animal gets, the bigger the wings need to
Right.
get. And those are pretty small. I mean,
That's
I
just
guess we don't have any
soil.
size
That's dirt
context.
Oh,
but
the body that we recovered is about the size of a school bus before
What?
the tail.
yeah, those wings are a little too small, I think, for flight.
Yeah.
Maybe gliding, maybe.
I think it's for shoveling dirt. I think it lives underground. Those muscular. I agree. There's some sort of weird mutation that happened in the
Yeah.
6 appendages.
Of course.
It's definitely a violation of the amniote body plan.
It's not a
for sure.
tetrapod.
It's a violation, but now that it's there, you have those strong muscular forearms, like pushing that soil back.
Well, look, its mouth is glowing too, so that really does stick to it. Like, look at the mouth, how it glows.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a sort of
Arr.
biofluorescent, like, float.
Yeah, so
throat
like
thing.
tell me a bit. What does this tell you about what it eats?
Well,
This sort of
It
mouthful
eats
arrangement.
ghost peppers.
I mean,
Well, it does not appear to have any like molar type teeth for grinding, so it's probably not eating plants.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is all incisiform. You're right.
yeah, those look pretty sharp.
I-
Like it's definitely a carnivore.
I do notice too. It's got kind of that large flat nose. Kind of makes me think of like moles, like the star nose mole that has that big appendage. on
Oh,
its
those things are
face.
so cool.
It's just the armor. It's just pushing through dirt.
I mean, look at its itty bitty eyes too. Like,
Yeah.
look at like it's super. Like this thing is echolocating in the soil somehow. Like this thing is so cool.
This is a fossorial dragon. Yes.
I wonder why it's red. Do you think it's just to blend in and hide out, like in the dark? Like a lot of animals tend to be
Well-
red in deep sea, or like that may be something that I picked up from the ocean if it was evolving from that as
But
well.
you know, sometimes stuff is just left over.
Yeah, like
It's
something.
left over.
Mm-hmm.
Red
some
clay soil. From
appendixes.
Alabama.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
Yes,
what I was
that's
gonna
it,
say.
yes.
It could be
This
a
is a
camouflage.
Prince
Red
Edward
clay
Island
soil.
dragon.
Yes, it is a fossorial dragon of Alabama.
Could it be under our? Could it be under our feet right now? Discovery Channel would like to know.
All right, how about the horns and or the fin crest? Anything,
Leftovers?
Does that tell you
Well,
anything?
You know, a lot of times when you see things like horns, they're for fighting, usually for mating purposes.
Or for more burrowing, had to get head down, head first. And when something tries to get inside of its hole, it just blocks its head there, and it just holds the line.
Well, like a trapdoor spider.
Yeah.
Or like one of those ants that's just a door for its entire
Yes.
existence.
That's it.
All right. Any other additions before we move on to our next creature?
Yeah, I was going to
of the week?
remark at the size of its skull relative to the body shape. You said it was roughly the size of a school bus, so that makes me think that the brain is probably pretty small. It's probably a pretty smooth cortex.
Maybe not very intelligent.
So it may not be doing a whole lot of thinking and planning.
A corvid, it is not.
I was thinking maybe it's venomous.
Ooh.
A lot of spines, and it's red,
know
and a
what?
lot of red animals are venomous.
You know what? Also, those teeth. Look at those incisiform teeth. It made. So there's a shrew, Blarana brevicata.
The North?
Oh,
Is-
yeah.
Yeah.
Those teeth look like Blarana brevicata. It is.
There we go.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with it. It's a venomous. Fossorial dragon.
From
Under our feet as we
Alba.
speak.
So, large, angry shrew.
Yes. This
Team, I think we cracked it.
All right.
Man, we're good.
We're great.
All
Yeah.
right. Awesome.
Let's go.
Oh.
Oh, my.
This is one of those well-attested species that's extinct, but was certainly around in sort of 0 CE era. It was still kicking.
Literally.
Yeah.
Sort of. It appears with a bit of an equine hindquarters, and then a hominid-like torso. 2 rib cages, which is exciting. Grasping hands. But that's about all. So, what can you tell me about how this guy lives, eats,
We
breathes, leaps?
do have yet another animal that's failed at being a tetrapod.
Yeah. Just like it didn't read the textbook at all. Like, come on, Tetra's 4, dummy. Come
Makes
on.
me wonder if the upper set of limbs are they like real limbs? Maybe they're fake.
But like it is, I mean, is that an artist rendition or that's like a photo that came along with the body? Like when we were picking up the rock.
Yeah, these are artists' renditions.
Okay.
These
so
are
yeah,
pre-photographic.
Okay, yes, making sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's
What,
definitely weird. It's a lot.
My question with centaurs too is also where are their lungs and stomach / how big are they? What are they eating? Are they ruminants?
Ooh.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's why they have so much space.
So if Centaur World is to tell me anything, they eat giggle cakes, which are like pancakes. So I guess they
Well, they
exist solely
cook?
on pancakes.
That's very
Yes,
advanced.
but it's magical cooking.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
I would love to see how their courtship behavior works. Because typically with these larger mammals, you would get a lot of fighting, especially in the competition for mates. And you see this in a lot of mammalian animals as well. And mammals tend to break the rules. Like, mammals are weird. They, like, break a lot of the rules. Typically, in nature, the females are larger in order to produce more offspring. But for this one, I think it would be really interesting to see the sexual dimorphism between the two and how they reacted.
Agreed.
You know what else I wonder about? Because with horses, the babies are born, like they have to be able to stand. Versus like humans, they're not actually very developed when they're born. So like
Yeah, no.
they have to have somebody support their head and stuff. So like where are we on the scale here?
So that brings up a good point. So, oh wow, so much going on. It's still so many genetic mutations in the
They
body.
Okay.
must have a really difficult time with birth.
In reproduction.
or not, it just falls out the back end.
Well,
Now, hear me out,
You
though.
hit the
After
ground
birth,
running.
though. After birth, though, like, where's the milk produced? If it's a mammal, where is the milk produced? Like, what part of, like...
where-
I'm
with the
gonna
teeth.
go.
yeah, they have two sets.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say so this is what I think is going on. I think, like we asked the question about the stomachs and the lungs. The lungs, they're magical book lungs. And they kind of go from the top down to the
Yeah.
bottom. Yeah. So it's not quite the same. The stomach, I think they are facultative ruminants, so they can eat a more traditional omnivorous human diet. But if times are tough and it's only pasture land, then it gets routed to that lower gastric. Now, horses proper aren't ruminants, but this really complex body plan, there's no telling.
Well, just
What's
because it looks
happening?
like
Is
a horse
there?
doesn't
Do you
mean
have
it's related to
any?
horses.
Do you have any comment or feedback on the fact that they can't actually get their mouth to the ground without
they have
kneeling?
hands.
Yeah, they have hands.
Yeah.
They have hands, and they can do that weird kneeling.
Oh yeah, they must
Yeah.
be like giraffes.
If a giraffe can do it, this guy can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun fact: mammals only have 7 vertebrae, even giraffes, which is why they can't bend their necks really.
Yeah, only like 2. I think manatees are one of the few ones that break the rules. Like there's there's 2 weirdos here or there.
It's not giraffes though.
Yeah, no,
It's
giraffes
not
are.
giraffes, actually.
Yeah.
They just have bigger bones, like this size.
Yeah, vertebrates are
They're
huge.
really long.
Yeah, if you haven't ever seen a giraffe attempting to drink from a lake, Google it. You'll be delighted.
It's
like
wonderful.
Somebody in a Wookiee costume attempting to tie their shoes. It's great.
Pretty
All right. Well, let's move on to the mermaid.
The beloved mermaid.
It's another humanoid. The question is, like, are the centaurs and the mermaids related to us?
Yes.
Or they just happen to look like
Well, no,
us.
they're related to each other for sure.
Okay, so they're not necessarily hominids, but they are related.
They're humanoid. They're the human-esque body plan that kind of half
Convergent evolution.
The half-seas. I think they're more related to each other. Phylogenetically, they branched off. You have the half-seas, then the whole seas.
So I have a question about this because from what we understand, there's only been a couple washed up on shore. These are deep sea creatures. They're fully aquatic, able to live under the water completely and breathe water. Does that complicate your assessment?
It's the depth that bothers me. Well, that's the thing. When you have organisms that can travel through the deep sea, you have to have a lot of adaptation to deal with. Something like a nautilus can actually chamber itself and survive the pressure. But if that organism is going too fast up or down, if we're finding them on the beach, like if they're really deep sea, their organs are going to be coming out of their mouth and their orifices. It's not pleasant. No, it's unpleasant. You definitely should say ill, vile
And
stuff.
usually mammals that can dive really deep usually have really thick skin and blubber, and they can contract their lungs and stuff. And
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
This is
Yeah.
a really skinny animal for living in the deep sea.
Is it skinny or is it in the juvenile form? And we're seeing a pre-development. So we don't know. That's
So
the,
maybe what you're saying is maybe only the adults can dive deep, and
Ooh.
the young
or
have to
maybe
come up.
we don't know.
Oh.
But what I'm saying is, when we only have natural history samples of the juveniles, and just because they're big doesn't mean they're the most mature.
I also like the tail. Well, I like the tail specifically because it works very similar to how marine mammals' tails tend to work, going up and down instead of left to right. So that does show to me that this animal was able to... I think it did come from the land at one point, similar to dolphins, because, like I said earlier, the transitioning, if you're trying to transition to a tail that works better with gravity, pretty hard to do that when you're already constantly have to use it.
Well, I think it's interesting too because it's hard to tell from this beautiful photo right here, but the fins on the tail look kind of see-through, which would be very unusual for a mammal. Usually, mammalian fins are
Beefy.
Yeah, really.
And they have
Yeah, they're-
skeletons in them. Like
Genius.
if you look at a whale's
Yeah.
flippers, if you X-rate it, they actually have hands.
What if this artist rendition is just
Wrong.
isn't giving us the information?
No, fully scientifically accurate.
Fully
This-
scientific.
Okay.
Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah, no.
Other question: is this animal wearing clothing? Because this is it's like the cooking. This is interesting.
Is this
indication of
tool use
intelligence.
in a sea animal that we don't recognize yet?
Ooh.
I mean, there are the pom-pom crabs that have the sea in it.
Oh, those are the
true.
best. If you don't
so
know what a pom-pom
cute.
crab is, they get little anemones, put them on their claws, and shock box anything that comes near them. Also, they wave them around. They're really, really cute.
They plant little gardens on their back. So the idea is they can go, I'm a plant.
And also there's the type of crab that takes the shells.
A hermit crab?
Yeah,
Hermit
hermit
crabs?
crabs. So could this be like a grippy, just gripping onto something useful?
Are we still talking about the bra?
Yeah, like a lobe-finned fish.
I'm going to stay right here in my corner. You keep digging.
So let's move on to the hair. What might the hair-like structure be useful for behaviorally, otherwise?
Attracting mates.
Attracting mates?
It could be some kind of lure.
Oh, that's good.
That was what I was thinking. Lures were like, come here, prey, gobble, gobble.
What if it's similar to something like drawing in organisms like clownfish, and it feeds off those smaller organisms? Like, oh, this seems like a nice little anemone to live in. Yow. Just every time smaller fish comes in, just munching off it. That's really. Oh, that would be so interesting to find them with
Well,
different colored hair that attracted different colored fish.
We're talking about clownfish. Maybe they have some kind of symbiotic relationship with some kind of fish that lives in their hair.
Ooh, yeah. Maybe a flounder? Or some other fish, whatever.
Well, you know what? It could be camouflage too, because I didn't know this, and I saw an interesting photo that somebody says, "Why are reef fish all so colorful? It seems like they'd be really obvious." And somebody switched it so that you see it like a fish would see it, because fish see different colors than we do. And actually, coral reef fish that look really bright to us blend in super well in fish vision.
It's amazing
So-
stuff.
So maybe fish vision that looks different.
So these wonderful, bright, luminous colors to us. The purple shells just full camouflage.
Blends
It's
right
just,
in.
it's just black and white down there.
It's just pretending to be a kelp bed.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Sure.
When sleeping, because sleeping in the ocean is dangerous.
You're very hard to find anything in the ocean that truly sleeps, and even then, things like dolphins and other animals have like, nope, half my brain needs to be awake. There are things out there. Typically, other dolphins.
Well, I think
Dolphins are jerks.
Yeah, no, dolphins are like really, really like orcas are great. They're terrifying, but they're great. But I can go on an entire hour rant on why dolphins are like monsters.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll move on before we dig into that
Thank
hole.
you. Oh, look at this good boy!
We got it. Look at this good boy.
Look at this good boy!
Look at this good boy.
horrifying.
All right. So this is a rancor,
Rancor.
about 12 to 20 feet tall.
Whoa.
Very friendly, as you can see. So just looking at what we can see here, we've got these sort of long fingers, small choppy mouth, the little eyes. What can you tell me?
I want to
I
get a
have-
look at the sense on that one. That thing probably has an amazing sense of smell.
I have two things that I noticed. One is the claw, like the hands. It's got like those two fingers that are kind of longer than the other ones, which makes me think, what are those? There's like a primate of some kind of a eyes.
The
eye.
And they have
Yeah.
those super long fingers so
Yeah.
that they can reach into
Yep.
things and pull them out. So like I feel, and it has the tiny eyes, so maybe this is like a cave dweller, and it uses those long fingers to pull like other things out of
Oh.
crevices.
There's few species of spiders that pull that off too. There's some
Oh,
species
really?
of spiders that are really slow, and like there's
Yeah.
something like spitting spiders that will actually spit venom, spit webs out of their fangs. But before they do that, they're really slow moving, and so what they'll do is they will tap to try and see if that organism can be eaten, and they do it really, really lightly so they don't notice. But yeah.
I'm looking at the mouth. So I'm seeing looks like a really weak musculature around the mouth.
Yeah.
And those teeth protruding
Really
out.
short.
I think they swallow their food whole.
Yeah,
And those teeth only serve as guards just to keep the living, dying, fighting prey until it finally gets it down its gullet.
What if it's like an eel and has secondary jaws down further in?
Oh.
Well, like, okay, a lot of times when people talk about, like, a lot of times when people design their own monsters, they try and put teeth outside the mouth to look scary. But you know what's scarier? Oxygen. And like erosion. Like if you have teeth without guards outside of the mouth, they will tend to break. So these might be the guards, and then they have the pharyngeal jaw inside for dealing with the rest of it.
If you've never seen like a video of eels eating things, it's horrifying. They, like spit out an extra jaw in their mouth.
It's pretty metal. It's pretty great.
Don't mess with eels.
All right. Does anything about its skin or its feet tell you anything interesting?
I'm going to go with what was said before, a cave dweller. So it looks like it lives in a moist environment. Yeah, a moist, dark environment.
Again, that brings back to, like, look how tiny and weak its eyes look. Like, I would love to see it. Maybe it's similar, like, when you look at a bear skull. Like, their nostrils are huge. So I think it might not only use a sense of touch, but also use a sense of smell and down in those caves to try and find and look for what it's going after. Then reach the long fingers in, like those old Looney Tunes cartoons with the cane, just like, yoop! Just grab them, munch them from there.
All right. Any other comments before we move along?
Still a very good boy.
He's such a good boy. All right. Then our next monster on the list. Any observations? What stands out about this terrifying?
It's got thumbs.
It's got thumbs.
Yeah,
What
I was
is that?
gonna say this one kind of looks like humanoid as well, but like furrier.
I will say that we only have one specimen and only the top half of him at that. So we have limited information. But yeah, what do you?
Another the stands out to me that the eyes are not facing the same direction, so it's like a chameleon.
Oh, yeah.
They're on top of the head, so I feel like this is gonna have a really great range of. They're gonna have really good eyesight and a really great range of view.
All right, so what does that tell us about how the animal might
It's
behave?
probably a prey species.
Probably a prey species.
Well-
Why do we say that?
A lot of prey species have excellent fields of view. So predators tend to have forward-facing eyes, and prey species tend to have eyes on the side of their head so that they can see like really far around, so that when they're doing activities, they can keep an eye out for predators.
Maybe it's a mid-level predator. Like, look, it doesn't have any teeth, so maybe it's swallowing prey whole. Like it doesn't. Like I don't
Oh
notice.
yeah, it's not grinding any plants. That's true.
Yeah, so it might be like a mid-level predator, kind of like a snake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, although there are predators that are also prey, because like I work with birds and like tiny owls.
Oh, yeah.
they're also prey species.
Yeah, no, so I'm thinking like it's something on the same like level ecologically as like a snake, where like it still has to watch out for prey and then gobble them up,
Or,
but
you
then
know-
also have to watch out for things trying to eat them.
I already said chameleon. They're kind of like that too.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right on the money with the eyes too.
I have a question for you as the neuroscientist. What do you think is happening with the brain capacity here?
It's hard to tell like what structurally it's going to look like. I would say what's interesting to me is that the brain seems somewhat reasonably sized. Like you think about like a human and our proportions. So maybe it's like somewhere in between where it has some higher level thinking capabilities, and
Like-
probably a little bit more social.
Yeah, maybe a palmate-shaped brain.
But, given the thumbs, I wonder about tool use in this species as well.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest that there's a good amount of tool use given the thumbs and the hypothesized size of its brain.
What are our thoughts on the blue? It's very difficult to find blue like actively in nature.
That's
like
true.
very few animals are actually blue. They're always something else kind of color. What do you think that would be for? Like maybe it's another mating thing similar to peacocks, or you're just so obnoxiously out there that you have to be loved.
Is it blue, or do we just perceive that?
Ooh.
I was gonna say, because like if you see a blue bird, there's no blue pigments in birds. It has to do with the shape of like the internal structure of their wings, which is also why when you see specimens of blue birds, they tend to be not quite as nicely colored because they're dead.
Yeah, true blue is really, really hard to find in nature.
Yeah, no such thing as blue eyes.
Yeah, that's true too. So humans, all mammals actually only have one pigment. It's melanin, which is why we don't come in exciting colors like green.
Not yet.
Give it time.
All right, so what environment do we think this creature would live in?
That's a
Cool.
Well, it must be somewhere kind of cold because it's got that pretty thick fur coat.
Hmm.
That was my
We could be
thought.
finding it though in the transition of losing that fur or gaining that fur. So it might have a time where it like just drops it all and just starts growing it back. Like could be transitioning, like transitioning depending on the season.
A molt?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's molting?
Yeah, it's molt.
But
Like
we
it's-
don't know if this is pre or post molt.
Yeah, because if it was post molt, I'd say probably a pretty cold environment. But
Yeah,
if
no.
it's pre, if it's pre, then it's probably would just have strong seasonal changes.
I think it smells like Fritos. It looks like it smells like Fritos.
I agree.
This was found on the coast. Do you think this could be an aquatic mammal, or is it terrestrial? How would we be able to tell the difference?
Well, I wish I could get a better look at its hands because they kind of look like they're maybe webbed, and if they are, then I'd say probably at least spend some of its time in the water. But if they're not, maybe not.
There are very few animals that tend to actually go near the water that actually like it, that aren't somewhat aquatic too. But it might be a rare case of one of those animals that's just has adapted to being able to grab food out of the water and just munching it really, really quickly. But again, like you said, we'd have to get a much closer look.
Oh, I see hands up, and I love your hands up, but we're going to save questions till the end. We're going to do some mic running afterwards, and we will skip back to previous monsters if you want, and we'll talk about new ones as long as we know what they are. All right. On that, sorry, I'm using your phone as a clock.
Oh, sure.
Because mine, I never left my chair, but I have lost my phone since I have not moved from this space, but my phone has gone missing. It's magical.
R.I.P.
All right, next on the list, a mic.
So,
The phone has been located.
Magical. I know what time it is again.
right away I noticed having one eye is probably going to make it difficult to perceive, like to have depth perception. So I feel like that would tell us a little bit about what it would be eating in the environment.
You know, that's interesting because I was just thinking about like relative stomach size. So like if you eat plants, you need really big stomach. So like usually things with smaller stomachs are predators.
I won't lie. This whole thing confuses me. And you just said stomach, and I'm like, where?
That's
Where
what
is
I'm
the
saying.
stomach?
Its
I don't know
stomach
where
has
the
to be
brain
like, "Ooh."
or the stomach is in this thing. It confuses me immensely.
Look at the muscular structure to hold. It's holding up those legs, holding up the body with those spindly legs. Like I really
Yeah.
want to get a look at the muscular structure that's holding all this whole thing up.
I don't think
Well,
this thing has to deal with gravity. at all.
We were talking about the brain, and it has that huge eye. So I mentioned owls earlier, but like owls have huge eyes. If you had owls like an owl's eyes, you'd have grapefruits in your head. So they're like probably not a lot of space in there for much else besides eye muscles.
Yeah, but like, there's no like the head and trunk are all collapsed. That's
Yeah.
what, it just confuses me. Like, so there's the brain in a teensy stomach hiding behind.
Well,
it.
yeah, and its arms are higher than its mouth.
Oh, that's
Well,
weird. Oh, I can't
Where are they
unsee that.
attached?
This thing is not of Earth.
It only looks like a tetrapod. It sort of succeeded, but also failed horribly.
This is truly cryptobiology now. The rest I could handle. This one,
Maybe it lives in space. There's no gravity.
I think it lives in space.
Yeah.
All right, so knowing that this thing lives in a low gravity environment and to our knowledge only has one orifice, what about the teeth? What might the teeth tell us about what kinds of things it eats and then keeps in its mouth forever?
Well, I mentioned because I think it's a predator. I also noticed its teeth are really flat, and like some species, their teeth fit together really well so that they can use them for like cutting. So like sea turtles and otters and can bite through like shells and things. So maybe it's eating shelled animals.
I don't know if it eats.
You just refuse to admit that
I
this
don't
thing
think
can
it needs
ingest.
to eat like traditional things. It can like absorb like bacteria and microbes.
Well, maybe it's photosynthesizing. It
Yeah,
just,
that's what the green is. It's chlorophyll.
It doesn't need that's like there's no stomach, like there's no space for any of that stuff. So
The
like,
mouth itself is false, and it's using it to ward off any potential predators.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. There we go. Yeah, let's go. My degree was worth something. Yeah. Validated.
All right, next up, and they're what we originally thought were two species. We've done some DNA testing, and we're now convinced they are in fact different stages of life of the same species.
Yo, my shirt though.
The first one we have many examples of because they're very easy to catch. They don't run away. They just sort of flap about and don't move very fast. The other one, very big and quite bitey. What can you tell us looking at these, just from their morphology?
One of them is clearly better than the other. I don't think I need to tell anybody that. You're good. But honestly, like, look at the size of its pupil, like compared to the rest of the eye. Like, look how just like it's a tiny itty bitty. I'm wondering what. Like, it might not even need to use its eyesight at all. Like, it had the whiskers.
Maybe it's nocturnal. Like a lot of nocturnal animals have that little tiny pinpoint.
Yeah,
eye.
it might also be like with the whiskers. They use them to help sense their way along the bottom. Like
Well,
this.
I note the pupils are a lot bigger on the adult form.
Oh, so the larval switch. Yeah, like a dragonfly. No, a dragonfly. Never mind. I'm thinking dragonfly larvae, but they're also killers when they're out of the water too. Yeah, no, but I get you. Dragonfly larvae are terrifying.
but this is interesting. I'm glad that the research bore out that they are the same, just at different life stages. And what we see here is that there's completely different life histories for the younger one and the bigger one. So the younger one seems to be, just takes in like plankton, like it gets what it can get, and it's worried about predation, even from adult forms of its same. But the adults are ravenous,
Cannibalism.
ready to eat anything. Their eyes are more forward facing, so they're everything is changed. Like this, as it becomes more mature, its entire life history changes.
Yeah.
To be more predatory. It has better mobility in the water. All those articulations.
It has counter shading versus the other one. Like, look,
I
yeah.
missed that. Good call.
The counter shading is really cool because counter shading is one of the best forms of camouflage in the ocean. Most organisms do have it. and it makes it really effective not only from hiding from stuff, but also sneaking up on stuff.
What does the counter shading mean?
Counter shading
counter
means that
shading.
you're dark on top, light on the belly. Penguins, sharks, dolphins, alligators, anytime you see something like that in the water, the idea is that when you look down, you will see them and it looks like the dark bottom of the ocean. You look up and you're looking underneath them, it looks like the light of the sky. So many animals work with this. It's something that's convergently evolved with so many different critters.
So we mentioned the thing about like cannibalism, which is interesting to me. It suggests to me it's probably an egg-laying species. There's a lot of species. If you have to worry about the adults eating the young, usually the adults don't stick around to take care of the young, because that's how you get eaten by your own
Two-piece
parents.
the poor babies.
Yeah.
They drop them, and then later they don't know them.
they
So
just
that's
go
why they
away.
look like a tasty morsel later. That could be Dad coming to gobble you up.
I have a couple more questions. The crests and the younger form, it has the sort of large bulbous crown-shaped thing that's not a fin. It's actually quite plump. And there's the crests along the back of the older one as well. Is there any examples in life that those would be analogs for, that we could tell anything about it for those?
Godzilla.
Also an aquatic creature.
That's true.
All right. Also, just out of curiosity, well, the small one does look very fishy. The large one less so. What kingdoms might this belong to? What kind of animal do you think this is?
I still say it's fishy.
Yeah, versiformes like fish are nuts. Like the transitions these animals will go through. If you ever watch the larval form of some fish versus what their full size are, like being able to change gender, being able to change coloration, size, all of this stuff, totally still a fish.
Yeah.
There's also plenty of fish that they're like, well, it comes into the river and it breeds, and then the larvae go into the ocean, and then they look like something, question mark, question mark, question mark, and then they show back up as adults.
Yeah. There you
You know
have
what?
it.
There might be a third stage in transition between these that just nobody's ever seen.
All right. Ready for the next one?
Yeah.
I'm going to apologize to anyone that's not familiar with the chimera. This-
Good God.
Another one that failed at being a tetrapod.
Yeah. If you can't quite make it out, that arch off the back, if we see it from the other side, is a goat head.
Yes.
So we've got a lion head, a goat head sticking straight off the back, and then a snake butt. Just sort of like from my colloquial observation. So what can we tell about this animal?
I have a question for you too. How many brains do you think it has?
One brain, the rest, I believe the rest of the organism is just there to mimic the other animals.
Really?
Do you think it's like a lure kind of thing?
It could be one is a lure and the other is avoiding from another predator.
Oh, that.
Like eye spots.
eye spot.
But it's
yeah.
a snake on the back of the predator.
Yeah,
instead.
snake tail. I mean, okay, there are actually a species of vipers that actually have, instead of a rattle on their tail, it looks like a spider. Like they're these spider-tailed vipers. They look terrifying when they wiggle them, but to another organism coming up to them, I don't want to deal with a spider.
See, I thought what we were seeing is it's a generalist. So, generalist is a species that can make a living off of almost anything, can eat almost anything. This is a true generalist. It's ready for anything. If it's only grass, it can eat the grass. We have the goat. If you need to be a predator of bigger things, the lion part can take over, or smaller things, the little snaky part.
So you're suggesting it has 3 esophagi?
Yes, it all kind of goes into the, I don't know,
The butt stomach.
your butt stomach in the middle. I would like to dissect that.
Do you think it's a mammal?
I would like to vivisect that. Like, I need to know exactly how this thing is working.
Yeah, I would want to see how, like, its embryonic stage, because part of me was thinking about, like, maybe this isn't one animal, but, like one single organism, but, like, I'm thinking of conjoined twins or something.
Or maybe it's like, with the anglerfish, where the males just sort of attach to the females, and
Maybe-
they become a single organism.
That's.
Oh.
Or we could go like crazier Portuguese man of war style, where it's the
it's
one
just a
singular
collection of
organism, but it's really
organisms.
just multiple connected different organisms, different roles. Like, there's a lot that can be said about this freak.
That's a lot going on.
That's interesting because it might suggest it's a younger stage where it's 3 separate animals that somehow combine into one.
They combine their powers into one.
Yeah.
Like
Maybe it's-
Voltron.
Oh. Oh my. That's a lot.
It has many eyes.
Well,
Yeah, dude, sorry.
I also want to know, is that guy running away?
Yeah, what's going
I
on?
want to know
No,
what the
he's
relationship is.
well, the guy in the front, from what I understand, was taking a selfie, and the gentleman in the back realized what was going on.
Oh, I see.
All we really have of this creature is the cell phone we found after the fact.
Oh boy.
Wait, okay, I need help just orienting. So are those bats flying around in the background?
Yeah, is that a size reference?
Yes, that
That's
is a
a-
large bat.
That's a bat. There's a lightning strike. What is that other thing in the background?
Oh, it's a statue.
Just a
Is
statue.
Is
There
this,
a dwarf on the ocean?
No,
that
it's
what
on
I'm
a
looking at?
staircase. It's on a staircase.
Is this
That's
a
a
monster
staircase.
or a meatloaf cover?
is it floating?
It is floating. Yes.
Okay, it's floating, and it definitely looks like the fella from the Lord of the Rings Fellowship. He looked like that particular dwarf. Oh, dude.
Well, you know what? We've got that teeth thing going on again. Same
Lots.
as the
Yep. Weird.
It's
How does it move? Like, is it bouncing up and down like one of those balls you can get a target, or it's just like boing, boing, boing? I've never seen an organism even attempt that, but we've seen stranger.
He's like, sir, I just want to talk to you about the car warranty.
So let's focus on a specific detail to
It's
bring
a
us
lot.
forward. There's a lot going on there. So
those
let's
teeth
let's
are
just
intimidating.
let's start with the teeth. What do the teeth tell us about what kind of thing this eats, how it eats?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Anything
Live.
smaller than it.
Anything smaller than it. All
Once
right.
again, it has no molars to speak of that we can see, so not plants.
Not playing.
It also doesn't have space for time. We have the same problem as the other single eyeball creature.
Oh,
So could it
it's
be just
also an
digesting
alien.
inside
Maybe
its mouth?
they're related.
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe we saw the juvenile state.
Yeah,
That was
make
feeding
sense
on
to me.
plant and photosynthesizing, and eventually it like adapts into this and feeds mostly carnivorously.
Yeah.
See, I feel like that's a gnarly mouth. And if I'm seeing correctly on the teeth, like fluid dripping, so is it like a venomous dissecting? So like the mouth itself helps to digest, so it doesn't need to chew. It
Well, you know,
just gobbles it,
You know-
chomp, 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 and it helps break it down.
we
then.
had the plant theory earlier. Like, carnivorous plants, and they have the teeth, and they go, but then they just dissolve their food.
I think that's what that is. So I think that's how it gets its
A
food. So it
giant
doesn't need a
floating
complex
Venus
stomach.
flytrap.
It does it all right there in the gullet.
Interesting.
That's scary.
Anything you can tell me about the arrangement of the eyes?
It's prepared to grab anything that moves.
Well, I feel like the main eye in the center. Well, I noticed it has a slit pupil. That's interesting. But the other ones look a lot more rudimentary. So like maybe they're just seeing like light and dark or motion. They're not really like true eyes. It's like that. There's that lizard. I think it's tuataras that have a third eye on the center of their head. But it's not like a real eye. It just can see like a little bit of motion and light and stuff. Maybe it's like that.
I mean, keep in mind that the only thing that it truly can defend itself with is those massive, gnarly teeth aside from the scale. So it probably would have to at least use the rudimentary eyes, similar to how horseshoe crabs have like 2 visual eyes, but then the rest are all light sensors.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that way they can actually see around the rest of them.
We brought
like
it
a
all
little.
the way back around to horseshoe crabs.
Yeah,
Well done.
yeah, yeah,
Expertly
always.
done.
It's nature's best animal. I don't know why there's any argument otherwise.
All right. Well, with an excellent callback, let's open it up to the floor. So if you've got questions, we got a mic runner standing up. We got a mic right here. So yeah, we're gonna do the science track standard of we'll go section by section, and we'll start at that end, and we'll bounce our way along in hopes of catching lots of people. So yeah, if you want to bring up a monster we've already spoken about, please keep your comments or questions to about tweet length to make room for everyone else.
I was wondering if any of you are familiar with the book The Flight of Dragons by Peter Dickinson.
No.
An amateur biologist basically traces the evolutionary tract, assuming that dragons were real, and why did they do the things that they do. And he said everything is a function of their ability to fly.
I'm not familiar with that one, but there was a mockumentary that they did that was like a nature documentary about dragons. that was similar. Saw that one.
There's also the criminally underrated film Reign of Fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going back to the Cookie Monster, I noticed the eyes are on top of the head, and y'all said that might be to look out for predators. But also, I was thinking more on the lines of alligators and crocodiles, maybe a submersive predator, ambush predator.
Yeah. See, what's interesting about that though is that you would also need its nostrils to be up there as well. Otherwise, it would kind of have to like float on its back under the water, like looking up. The eyes just kind of have to googly around.
I mean, do we know that they're not? Where are its nostrils?
Ooh, yeah, you're right. No.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's got the
there's
tube
a reasonable
nostrils.
chance-
Just who says it
Yeah.
has nostrils? Maybe
There's
it has
a
a
reasonable
tracheal.
chance they're behind the eyes.
I mean,
Yeah, who knows?
Oh.
Or it might have a tracheal system where it's respirating throughout its entire like body, its skin layer, like a lot of. We
Like
don't know
a-
what
like
this
an
is.
amphibian?
I mean, I don't know what this is. Not quite feather, not fur. I mean, it's shag, so we don't know where that goes.
It's a
It's not
carpet.
thin. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Okay, so I have a friend that works with horses a lot, and so sometimes they'll tell me fun facts about horses. One of the fun facts is that some horses will bite down on wood, and it will get them high. So, yes. So, do you think a centaur might do that?
Plenty of animals do use things to get chemical stimulants. Like elephants have been eating like rotten fruit to get drunk longer than humans have been fermenting alcohol.
Yeah, wrong panel, but frat boy elephants are a major problem.
Well, and we did discuss that we think this is a fairly intelligent creature.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't see
Probably
any.
doing it on purpose.
Self-medicating?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Going back to those two fish that we thought were two different life stages for each other, could it be possible that this is sexual dimorphism and they're just able to change sex like a clownfish?
There could be something to that. I mean, with these organisms, typically you'd see you still see the same body plan. That's the thing.
Well, because
Or-
there's this beetle. For the longest time, they were like, "Where are the males?" And the female beetle is kind of long and segmented and has these horns and it's orange, and the male beetle looks like a beetle.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they're like,
that's
this,
right.
like the female is like this big and the male is like this big, and they only know that they're related because they did some DNA testing once, and they're like, oh, it turns out that the male just looks absolutely nothing like the female. So
And then,
they
of course, we
have
go
that.
back to the anglerfish. Yeah, the
Yeah,
anglerfish is a
yeah.
weirdo.
It could be. You know what?
Yeah.
I would take that experiment on.
You know what? Maybe those crests on the back of the blue one are the males that have been.
See, I'm always going to.
Subsumed into the female body like an anglerfish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All the past lovers that did her wrong.
So this one has had at least like 4 males previously.
Could be.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Going back to the rancor, I was looking at its toes, and it seemed like it had the toes of a 3-toed ungulate. Do you think that might factor into its digestive system at all as well?
No, I mean, okay, we talked about the teeth being like guards for it. What if it's guarding like molars?
So,
Like, what if the second-
It doesn't look
As-
like it kind of has the jaw structure.
Yeah, again,
A
that's the
lot
thing.
of-
It's like it needs more power.
a lot of... Oh, sorry.
You were going to say something?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Okay. Well, a lot of the things that you've said about this and bringing up the back toes reminds me a lot of a rhinoceros.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But just because the foot looks very similar to an ungulate, that's not all. That just tells you about its locomotion. Yes, so I wouldn't necessarily then jump to the conclusion that how it makes a living in all those other ways nutritionally are the same. That just tells me that it probably walks on ground that is really either soft, mushy ground. So you need those toes to spread out to keep your footing. So like I was thinking like a wet cave, but maybe it's very sloughly where it lives, whether it's in a cave or not. So maybe not still digestion like that, but perhaps we can take a page from rhinos and hippos, and it makes a living in how it locomotes and how it stays above the substrate.
So again, with the rancor, it could be that their mouth is similar to a naked mole rat, where they can actually close their lips behind the teeth and then use the teeth to dig through the earth.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
That
I
does
like
go
that a
with
lot.
our cave theory.
Mm-hmm. Good thought.
We like to give our mic runners as much exercise as possible. We don't take them out for the regular walkies during these.
Got to hatch those eggs. Get those steps in.
With the mic and the beholder, I noticed that the larval stage had limbs. It had arms and legs, and the beholder seemed to not have those. Are there any examples of animals dropping limbs as they evolve? Not evolve, grow.
Butterflies.
Yeah.
Butterflies, but then again, they replace them with something else. So that's the thing.
Well,
is like,
but this one has the eye stalks.
yeah, it's got the eye
So
stalks.
replace its limbs with eye stalks.
Some
Maybe
sort of
limbs turned
bouncing
into eye
butt,
stalks.
like just able to just bounce up and down. We still don't know how this thing. Until someone gives me a better option, I'm still saying bouncing butt.
Well, if we didn't have this clear example of it being the air, I'd say it was aquatic, but
Well, I think you guys established that the mic, given its really piddly
it
limbs,
lives
is
in
probably in a
space.
lower gravity environment. So,
Yeah.
So
You think this-
I think this creature might be lighter than air in that lower gravity environment, or in a zero gravity environment.
So hear me out.
Yeah.
Manatees use gas, like they flatulate in order to float up and down. What if this thing is flatulating in order to move left, right, and up and down? Like every time it's chasing, going. I know it sounds dirty and a joke, but that actually is how manatees work. They're
so
wonderful.
that's why there's lightning in the sky then. Okay. Those are flatulence. Those are lightning farts.
And the flatulence is attracting insects, and that's the bats are there to harvest on the insects.
Yeah, the lightning farts.
Lightning farts, yeah. We did it, team.
Lightning farts. Science. All right, who we got over there?
So cutting back to the dragon, you had previously mentioned that the red coloration you believe to be a left behind of previous ancestors. But you also mentioned it's a dirt-moving organism. If it was more of in say, desert climate, where you may have a lot of sandstone or other red-hewn rocks below the surface, and maybe it burrows down and possibly hunts a little bit above ground during the night time, would this be reasonable? It doesn't necessarily need to be flight, but with shifting of sand, it might be easier on its wings as well.
I say yes.
Yes.
Yes. The spice must flow.
Oh.
Because it can go. I mean, think about that. Those were big creatures. I can see that. Yep. Solid.
Rock solid. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going crazy.
Going back to the two fish, I did notice that the one on the right seemed to have nostrils. Is that significant at all?
Ooh, excellent question.
Oh,
Brilliant
you're
observation.
right. Do you
Panels.
think it takes in oxygen, or do you think it needs to come up to the surface instead of having gills? Actually, I don't even see gills on the fish.
I'm assuming there's a gills behind those little
Oh yeah,
flaps.
they're on the flipper. Yeah.
Yes, and?
With the globular carnivorous plant there, we noticed that it has very rudimentary eyes on its stalks, but all of those rudimentary eyes are focused on its prey. Could those possibly be something that it reaches towards to grab its prey?
Yeah.
Something like a sundew uses.
Oh, they could be sticky.
Like sticky?
Oh.
And this is how the
Horrifying.
carnivorous plant grabs its prey.
I feel like I need hand sanitizer just listening to this.
There is a lot of goo around on that. I think an adhesive
nice.
beholder
I don't want it.
is a
Everything.
strong hypothesis.
I wanted to ask a question about the centaur. So these are artist renditions of extinct animals, and oftentimes when these animals are being reconstructed, they're constructed incorrectly, like how we ended up with kangaroo T-Rexes that stand upright, where we now believe that they didn't stand like that. So what are the odds that this was actually a hexapod and had a more horizontal shape to its body rather than assuming it was a tetrapod with extra limbs?
You know what?
that has happened before with something like a plesiosaur. Everyone knows plesiosaur, Loch Ness monster sort of deal. They accidentally, at first when it was coming out, put the skull from the neck and put it on the tail. And so they thought it had a really short neck and a really long tail. Could be. People have been wrong before.
So yeah, if it is a hexapod and it's pretty much flat, but it does have the grasping hands at the front, does that change at all our analysis or our understanding?
Or, you know what? So what it could also, speaking of that, people do put things together incorrectly. What has also historically happened when we find these fossorial relics that we assemble things incorrectly, that could have been just a man on a horse and we got all the bones confused.
Yeah.
And threw them
It could have been an
together.
ancient man and a horse who'd
Yeah.
formed the first bond.
And they just put it all together wrong.
Anything for the grant money. Anything.
Going back to Cookie Monster, could you argue that it is possibly a polar predator due to an aquatic polar predator along the lines of like a polar bear due to like the hair length?
There's just
they like ambush set eyes.
No
fur
teeth,
color.
no claws. That's the thing. Like, I agree with you in that it looks like it could be something like that, especially with the hands. But like, I don't see any teeth or claws unless it's like what is it? How to Train Your Dragon, where the teeth come out like they're hidden.
And the claws can also come out.
Oh, that's true. They could all be retractable claws and teeth.
Usually the retractable claws are actually like, your cat's claws are actually like the first knuckle of its hand. They kind
It's
of go like
friend
this.
shaped to fool you.
Ooh, it's that kind of ambush predator.
Well, and with the very broad, flat mouth, it's more reminiscent of a frog-like. So maybe it's a frog-like predator or a lizard-like predator.
Voracious predators.
Maybe its eyeballs sink in like a frog's to help crush their prey. Like when frogs eat, like their eyes go down to help crush down whatever's in their mouth.
This has been a frog the whole time.
It's a frog. Oh, there even is the hairy frog.
This is a fluffy polar frog.
There is something called the hairy frog too. This is great.
We don't know what its lower half looks like. I mean,
doesn't exist.
Very jumpy.
Going back to the dragon and the point about it being in the desert, could its wings be a way to diffuse heat from its huge body?
Yeah, thermal regulation.
They're just big elephant ears.
Yes.
Well, that way, because we already discussed that they're super not big enough for this animal to fly. So
Yes.
That would make more sense.
I received that.
Wonderful.
This section here is.
I know
Yeah.
the section here's
The
on
section
fire.
here's got on fire. Yeah, our
Step up your
fairness
game,
is
rest
not
of the
actually
section. No, I'm
working
kidding.
very well.
All
All right, we got time for like one more question, maybe two if they're quick, before we do our outros.
This one actually isn't on any of the ones we've gone over, but there seems to be darn it.
Plethora?
Way too many, yeah, of ambush predators that work in groups. Dang it, I'm forgetting all the words I want to use. Like hive creatures that attack in moss and just kind of hang around, and then one sets up the alert and suddenly there's a million. So any thoughts on benefits of that, or why we seem to see so many in games?
Oh, so yes.
Oh, cooperative hunting. Usually you see cooperative hunting in like areas where food is pretty scarce. And you hunt more effectively in a group than alone. So like Harris hawks, in places where there's plenty of food, they're solitary, but in places like there's not plenty of food, they hunt in packs.
So a lot of it might have to do with like the rendering software making the grass very short in their natural environments, because they just don't have the polygon count to render enough food sources, which is why they're always descending on like the lone creature that travels through their areas.
Thanks, EA.
Hello.
Hello.
I am in fact a monster.
Seize him for dissection. I'm kidding.
Please don't. If you would like to do a very brief analysis, that's.
Would you be willing to stand up so
Yeah,
we
you
can get a
can
look
stand
at
up and
your
see
limbs
it.
as well?
Yeah, yep.
All right. So yeah. All right. So we've got some remarkable coloration. We got full fur, some clumpy feet. What do you tell us?
The very bright colors usually indicates danger.
Or at least that's what they want you to think.
Or that's what they want you to think.
Or your diet. You've just been eating some really delicious num-nums
Or,
that carry that.
There's like the Lemerciers, the bearded vulture. They use makeup. They're not actually orange. They're white. They put the orange on themselves.
I love the ears, especially for the climate you're in right now. Clearly, you have a lot of fur, but the ears allow you to get some of that heat up, like a fennec fox. Fennec foxes have these large ears in the desert. Get them out. So if you're walking around the con or stuck in one of these tunnels, like you're going to be a lot better off than the rest of us.
All right, we got another eye brain question in there. What can you tell us about their brain power?
Brain power looks like it's probably pretty strong. I think they also have opposable thumbs, which makes me. Oh.
No.
That's a good classic paw pad there. Look at those beans.
Look at those toe beans.
Still probably has some, higher level thinking abilities.
But especially if they're doing the makeup thing.
Yeah. The makeup thing.
Yeah.
All right.
All around, it's a delightful creature.
Thank you so much. All right, that is our last question. I do have a single creature that I don't think we have time to analyze. I just want to watch all of your faces. A creature who goes through several stages of full metamorphosis.
Oh.
Yeah.
My boy.
I love it.
All right, thank you. This has been Monster Morphology. My panelists, where can we find you either at DragonCon or elsewhere?
Here at DragonCon, I will be tomorrow on the Science for TV panel. Otherwise, I'll be around. I forget to use it all the time, but you can message me there. You can go to Endangered Art on Twitter. I publish science books that are comics. Or if you want to find me personally, you can find me at Sunday Creature.
I don't have any other panels this weekend, but if you want to find me on Instagram or any other social channel, I'm NeuroGal913.
All right. I'm on all social media platforms as DNLE5, but here at DragonCon, I'll be back in this room at the next hour for talking about excellent science writing. And this evening, back here at 7 p.m., for the Marvel Cinematic Universe Grant Review Board with the rest of the Curly Hair Mafia. And then tomorrow at 11:30 and 4, I'll be on 2 other panels, one on speculative evolution and alien comparative anatomy. That's going to be in the big crystal ball room downstairs.
I'm going to have 2 panels tomorrow. I have Pokemon vs. Reality over at the Westin, where we talk about some of the ways that Pokemon kind of nerfed a bunch of the real-world animals they use. And then I'll also be there doing Science First, the movie. That'll be here at 10 o'clock.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a real fun one. Also, if you see a Magikarp in a soup running around, that's also me. Say hi.
All right, and if you really liked me, you can follow me over to, I believe, I should have looked this up before I started talking. Hilton Grand East to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, where I once again ask people who are smarter and prettier than me to be brilliant. Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you want to donate to the charity Open Hands, there's a collection plate up here, I guess.
Give to the bucket.
And rate us on the app if you like this panel. Let DragonCon know so we can keep growing our room and keep growing everything we do.
All right.
All right, and you can come up and ask us questions, but we do need to drain this room.
And we do have some...
Everybody scatter!